Good evening, everyone. My name is Meredith Bonn. I just want to welcome you to tonight's National Court Reporters Foundation Ask Me Anything About Being a Freelance Reporter. I will start with the usual Zoom etiquette that if you're not speaking, please put your microphone on mute so as not to disturb the audio of others so we can all hear. So really excited to talk to you tonight, to give you an opportunity to ask our esteemed panelists questions. Some you've submitted, some we've prepared ahead of time. I will let you know that this evening's session is about being a freelance reporter. Last month we did a session. This is a series of Ask Me Anything sessions put on by the National Court Reporters Foundation. And pause to shout out to our great task force, the Ask Me Anything task force. And this evening, as part of the task force, we have with us Rich Jermosin. You can give a little wave. I believe Sandy Narup, I can see her smiling face is there. Thank you, Sandy, for joining us tonight. Early Langley is here with us. Thanks for waving, Early. We don't have with us the co-chair of the foundation to Ask Me Anything task force, Cindy Isaacsen, NCRA vice president. I would be her co-chair on the foundation. And Marjorie Peters also serves with us on the Ask Me Anything Foundation task force. We also have in attendance two of our NCRF trustees. I believe Pat Graves is with us and Andy Kreutz was supposed to be with us. So just wanted to shout out to our trustee members that are also joining this evening. So this is what's going to happen. In this session, we're going to talk about freelance court reporting, what you to do to be a freelance reporter, answer some questions about it. Next month, you can put on your calendars, Tuesday, November 28th, 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern time. We're going to do an Ask Me Anything session about captioning, all kinds of captionings. We will have a panel of experts in captioning to answer those questions. So if any of your submitted questions this evening were about captioning, we're going to ask you to save that to next month, or take advantage of reaching out to somebody through email if you would like something answered sooner than that. So we have several panelists with us tonight, and I'm going to give each of them an individual opportunity to introduce themselves. But before I turn to them, our panelists this evening are Maya Colucci, CMRS, and joining us in a little while, we will have Ron Cook. If somebody sees him log in, give me a high five. We have Regan Evans, RMR, CRR, CRC, Bailey Evans, an NCRA student member, and Rich Jermosin, member of our task force and our NCRF trustees, FAPR, RDR, CRR, CCR, Early Langley, RMR, as I said before, a member of the task force and an NCRF trustee, and Alex Lederer, RPR. So Maya, I'm going to start with you. I'm going to give the panelists just, 30 seconds to a minute so we don't waste too much time that's not on questions, but I want you guys to know who they are, what they do, a little bit about their background. Thank you, Maya.
Unmute. Okay, that's the first trick. So my name's Maya Colucci. I'm in Rochester, New York. I've been a freelance court reporter since a long time ago, late 80s. And I freelanced until I bought the agency that I was working for. That was a family-owned agency. They retired. My husband and I bought the company, and I have been running the company ever since. So that was in 2006. So I've got experience from both sides, being a court reporter out in the field, what court reporters need, what they need on the job, what support they need to produce their job. And then I have it on the other end, what the attorneys need, or at least what they think that they need, what they want, and what they end up with, and how we do that for them.
Thank you very much. Rich Jermosin.
Hello, everybody. My name is Rich Jermosin. I'm a freelance stenographer since 1992. I live in New Jersey, work mostly in Manhattan, covering mostly real-time jobs if I can help it. And I think I said I've been working 31 years, and I think that's about it. But I'm going to take a quick picture now, if just so we can have a nice picture of everybody smiling. So I will count. Let me see. All right, so 1, 2, and 3. All right, thanks.
Thank
Thanks.
you, Rich.
We're ready.
Early Langley.
Okay, before I became a court reporter, I was a paralegal, and before that, I got a degree at UC Berkeley. And I've been a reporter for, I don't know, over 35 years. And I cover pretty much everything: trials, arbitrations, depots, and everything's real time for me. And I will appear in person. That says something out where I am.
I love it. Regan Evans.
Hi there, my name is Reagan Evans, and I began as a freelance court reporter. Then I was hired by as an official in Texas for a court, and I worked there about 1.5 years, and then we moved out to the Los Angeles area, and I got into the freelance work out here. I freelanced many years, and then I started my own agency from scratch, which was one of the hardest things I ever did. And 3 years later, I sold that to a CSR-owned agency and just went into strictly doing in-person trial work as an independent contractor. So that's currently what I do, is cover civil trials, and enjoying my work. 36 years.
Outstanding. Next we have Bailey Evans.
Hi, everyone. My name is Bailey Evans. I am located in Houston, Texas. My background is not as extensive as theirs is, but I've been reporting since 2016, and I started with freelance, and I've stuck with freelance so far.
Outstanding. Thank you so much. I'm also going to get to Alex Letterer.
Hi, everybody. My name is Alex. I am a freelancer in Florida, originally from New York, where I worked my first year. I started working in 2021, so just finished up 2 years now. I'm the new kid on the block, so to speak, and I'm really happy to get to help out everybody tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. And we chose our panel very much on purpose to show a wide variety, people that are in different positions, because what you think after being a reporter for 3 years and what you think about being a freelance reporter after 36 years are very different. And so we wanted to share different opinions and different perspectives as part of the answers. So just a little bit if you can put your microphone on mute if you're not speaking, we would really appreciate it. Thank you so much. All right, so we're going to start with our first question to the panel about what are the requirements needed to embark on this profession? And I would ask the panelists, you can use your physical hand up or a virtual hand up, and I will call on you who would like to go first. Okay, Maya.
Okay, so I'm in New York State, so I can only talk about New York State. And in New York State, there is no barrier to getting into the profession. You have to find somebody that will work you. So you either find an agency that you can prove yourself to, variety of ways, sitting in, producing little snippets of transcripts for comparison to the court reporter that took it officially. Or I suppose if you're out way up in the Adirondacks or something that maybe there isn't an agency to work for, you're going to have to put your shingle out and find somebody to hire you to do court reporting. It's a little bit easier to have the support, I believe, of an agency. I wouldn't have wanted to put my own shingle out and not have somebody to ask questions of. I feel like the agency is here to support the court reporter. I know what I wanted, what made my job easier. when I was taking work, and I try to make sure that the court reporters that work for me get that support on the front end and on the back end. So I think the question was,
Requirements needed to work
Requirements
on the
needed to-
profession.
right, so requirements, technically in New York State, there are no requirements. I wish there were requirements, but there aren't. So you just have to work really, really hard, graduate from school, show up with your shiny diploma. Hopefully you've been sitting in somewhere along that line, and off you go, off to the races.
Alex has his hand up.
So in Florida, there's also no requirements, but basically the short answer of the requirements to work is your RPR. There's about 5 states, if I'm correct, that don't require any certification, and about 5 states, if I'm correct, that require their state certification. That leaves about 40 states where you really just need to have your RPR. Washington, if I believe correctly, only requires your RSR to work. And so there's a lot of workarounds. If you want, theoretically, you could work doing New York jobs or Florida jobs from the state you live in if the agency you work with has a notary. That way they can swear in the witness in that state and you can do your work remotely. But ideally, you should start working either when you're at your exit speeds or when you have your RPR.
Thank you. Early.
In California, you must be a CSR. You must pass the California Certified Shorthand Reporter exam, and it's governed by the California Reporters Board, the CRB. And that's what you need.
Thank you very much. So we have an additional panelist that has joined us. Ron Cook is here. Ron, what you missed is that I let each panelist introduce themselves and say who they are, what they do, where they're from, and we will jump to you for that now.
Very good. If everybody can hear me, my name is Ron Cook. I'm a freelance court reporter. Started out in Los Angeles, moved up to Washington about 30 years ago and stayed freelance. And now I'm back down in LA and I'm working as a freelancer, but working actually doing court trials. Yeah, that's about it.
Outstanding. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for your time this evening. Okay, so we're going to go to the next question, and which has partly been addressed. Some people are saying in my state, you don't need to be certified. In this state, you do need to be certified. So when you talk about the general question of, do you need to be certified? Regan, can you explain further for that one on us? That did come out right.
Well, I am in California, and so like Early and Ron, you definitely have to have your California CSR, and there's not any reciprocity for that California CSR with any other state. So they're pretty picky. I think Texas is the same way. So to be certified, you have to finish school and, get through your qualifiers and be sitting out with a reporter, taking freelance work, whether that's in court, shadowing that reporter, you're learning from them, or in deposition, because every scenario is a little bit different and you're going to pick up different things sitting out with different people.
Outstanding. Bailey, do you have anything else to add from your Texas point of view?
Well, in Texas, you definitely have to have the state certification before you take any job. And that's going to be at 3 legs. It's $225, I think, for QA, 200 for literary, and then 180 literary, and then 200 jury charge maybe. But once you pass that, you pass the background check and you sit out with reporters. And then once you pass the cert, usually your email is logged into the JBCC who governs the certifications and stuff, and you'll start getting kind of blasted with emails for work to start taking jobs.
Outstanding. Maya, I'm going to call on you next. As a freelance firm owner, how do you feel about certified court reporters, ones that hold state and national certifications?
That's not a question you wanted to ask me. I've had good and not so good. For the most part, a certified court reporter is probably going to bring a upper level of professionalism to the job. Not always. Unfortunately, I don't know. This was not a question to ask me.
And no worries, because there's good and bad apples in every crowd, and it depends on keeping up with your skills, practicing.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. So that's the question I want you to ask me. What did I need to know? When I was a beginning court reporter, that's my question. I would be much better at that one.
All right, and we'll do it next. I'm going to segue to Rich Jermosin, because I feel you are an expert on what do you need to be certified, what it takes to be certified, how being certified can help you in your freelance career.
I mean, do you need to be certified? There's states that you don't need to be certified. In New Jersey, you do need to be certified. But let's just move to New York. I think everyone should be going for their RMR, because most state certifications are 225 words a minute. That's good. If we can do that, that's good. You can do 260 or 280 words a minute. You can probably keep up with most of the attorneys. It's not going to be clean. It's not going to be perfect. But I think everybody should be striving for that RMR, just because it's a different level, and people don't speak. When I started working in 1992, people spoke slower, and I didn't know, don't get used to this, because like as the years go on, people are going to be speaking faster. But the younger attorneys, they're just, they're like they're just spitting out these words. So I think, we should all be trying to get that RMR. If we were all RMRs, it would be a heck of a profession, just because we can write faster. And that's what, the name of the game is, trying to get down all the words. So I'm a big advocate of don't stop until you get that RMR minimum, preferably RDR, but at the minimum RMR. And it's not going to happen overnight. You're not going to come out, and most of us are not going to walk in and pass the RMR first time. It may take you 4 or 5 years or something, but on the journey to get that RMR, you just become a much better writer. So I have to tell everyone, my advice is get that RMR minimum, and maybe even go for the 280 for the speed contest, and you're just that much better of a writer at the end of the day, if you can accomplish that goal. So,
Rich, you missed the magical sentence of practice every day. There may be people in our audience today that don't know Rich Jermosin and his advocacy for practicing every day. And it's all about everything that he just said for becoming certified.
I just took a 2-week trip to Italy, and I took my machine. People think I'm a little crazy. I was trying to say, are you going to regret taking it, or are you going to regret not taking it? So I wound up taking it. And I said, if my streak breaks, it's just 15 minutes. And specifically on this trip, it wasn't even going to be 17 minutes. It was going to be 15. And I took it day by day, and I was successful. I came home and I still had my streak intact. I'm on day, 85 or something. And one day was on the tour bus, and I was writing what the tour guide was saying. Then he wouldn't talk, so I put on iHeartRadio, and I did that. But for the most part, I was trying to do three 5-minute takes, and I was able to do it. So yeah, definitely. Now my fear is coming back to work and not being on that writer for 2 weeks. Like, what's going to happen? It's probably going to be okay. It's probably going to be okay, but I don't want to find out if it's not okay. So I was able to do 15 minutes for 2 weeks while I was gone.
And how long have you been a reporter again?
31 years.
31 years. This man practices every single day. The epitome of our profession right there. Thank you for your dedication and the example that you show to all of us. The work that we need to put in. Okay, I'm going to go to our next question about what do you wish before you knew before becoming a freelance court reporter. Mayor requested this one. I'll let her start, and then I'm going to call on a couple panelists that haven't answered recently.
Before becoming, I don't know, what do I wish that I knew before? So I don't know what your before is. My before is going to school before I took my first job, not before I decided to become a court reporter. I'd already decided I wanted to be a court reporter. I went to school, cranked it out. I took 3 years. I messed up. I did not practice. I needed Rich in my class telling me to get my you-know-what together. At Alfred, in New York State, Alfred State College, I was in person at the time because it was a long time ago. I'm more than 31 years, but we're not going to, and not as a court reporter, because I haven't court reported on my steno machine since 2006, 2007. But between the minute that I decided I wanted to do the court reporting, went to college, got my degree, decided that this was going to be it. What I wish I would have known is that I needed to keep practicing. It's not like you go to school and you get your MBA or you get your accounting degree or whatever, and some of the tax codes change and stuff like that. That's not what our job is. Our job changes every single day with every single job. You're going to learn construction on this one. You're going to learn about an appendectomy that went wrong on this one. You're going to learn matrimonial stuff on another one. We don't do any trials up here because we have our officials that do our trials. So I can't tell you anything about that. I can only tell you about deposition work. But every single day you're going to learn something new, and you need to be able to envelop that and assimilate it, and your steno needs to adapt. What you learned in school is not what you're going to be doing 5, 10, no way 20 years ago. I don't know, Rich, I know everybody else has been doing this for a bunch of years. Bailey may not have felt this yet, maybe just a little tweak, and Alex, but the rest of us, I don't know how close your theory is to what you came out of school doing to what you're doing now. And Meredith and I were talking about enders and she's learning them right now. And at the end of a trial,
Improving on them.
Yes, improving, incorporating a new one. You're gonna be in your job in a court reporting freelance job. Lots of times you get a break after an hour and a half, something like that. And there's going to be 1, 2, 3 words that are driving you crazy, and you're going to come up with something, not just a little brief form for that day, maybe, but you're like, oh, I remember I read about a brief form, or somebody talked to me about such and such, and then whammo, by the end of that day, that brief form is now going to be stuck in your brain, and the next time it comes up, it's going to be instantaneous. But it's practice. It's practice. I don't know how Rich practices exactly, but the fact that he is practicing every day, and I'm certain that some of what he's practicing isn't just for speed. It's some new thing that he read about, that he heard about, that he talked about, and he's incorporating it into what he's doing. And the RMR and the certification, that's fabulous. It's putting a transcript together. And just because you have the RMR, you don't put not rich. Some people just say, oh, I've got the RMR, I've got the words down, but you need to be able to make a transcript out of those words.
Excellent perspective. Alex, I'm going to call on you next. What do you wish you knew before becoming a freelance court reporter?
I think your question is kind of backwards. It's more what I didn't know when I became a freelance. I was going to ask people to raise their hand if they're above or at 160, but I see we don't have a lot of people's cameras on. So I'll just ask you, if you're at 160 or above, how do you make a transcript? I didn't know that until I actually took my first job. After I'd already taken it, I did not know how to make a transcript. And in fact, I had been emailing with my agency owner back and forth. There's about 30 emails back and forth. And she was showing me what a transcript was supposed to look like. I'm trying to make it. I'm sending it to her. She's like, Alex, we're seeing what you're sending us. It's not working in compiling in the software. What are you doing wrong? I'm like, I don't know. I've been putting it into Photoshop and it's looking exactly how it's supposed to. I didn't know you're supposed to use your software to make a transcript because I had never been taught that. I was only taught how to type fast. And so that was the big learning curve of becoming a court reporter, is that you're only taught how to get out of school. You're not taught how to actually start working. And so my advice would be, once you are ready to work, start slow. take one job, take two jobs, and then figure that out and slowly build up. It's a luxury to say that because when I started working, I was living at home. I didn't really have bills I needed to pay, so I could start slow. Not everybody is in that position, but it's something to consider. Also, can I just say it's really cool seeing the closed captions for what I'm saying. I've never had anybody caption me before, and I have that on for Zoom right now.
Got it. Outstanding. I will say that another service that the National Court Reporters Foundation offers is sponsorship of the Career Launcher program. And that is a program specifically identified for freelance court reporters where you can practice making a transcript. You sign up for it. You can either get sponsored to take it or pay to take it. You can take it at school. You can take it as a new reporter. But if anybody hasn't learned of the Career Launcher program, it's on the NCRA website. And I will say, if I haven't already, that whatever questions we don't get to tonight, if you walk away tonight and say, wait, I had more, I wanted to know about this, wait, they never asked this question, in our chat box right now is emails and contact information for panelists. And so write down who you're looking for. When I'm not speaking, I'll put mine as well. Do not leave tonight without having network connection, contact information so that you can, after this evening, get more answers to your questions, because we will work with the time we've got. But tonight's not the end of it. We're still here, ready, willing, and able to help you. So I'm going to continue on that question just a little bit more. Bailey, do you have an answer about what you wish you knew before becoming a freelance reporter?
Well, I think in school, I was always really frustrated with my teacher who would try and tell me or try and tell the class, you know, what we were to expect whenever we would go out in depositions. And I would get so frustrated because it was always, you know, well, one day you'll go and you'll do this, or one day you'll go and you'll get that. And there was never really a rule book to kind of know what to expect for your everyday. And that is how the job is. But I think that one of the most important things is to really find somebody that you can call or text in the middle of a situation that you're in, because you truly you can't know everything before you get out on the first job. And it is scary, but then every time that you come across those hiccups, you won't forget them. They will be imprinted in your brain because it was, you know, you had to figure it out really quick. But finding somebody that you can email and text daily, a mentor for sure, because my mom tells me whenever she went to school, they worked in firms and they had, you know, a kind of a camaraderie and they had people to ask questions to. But reporters now, whenever we get out of school, we don't have that. We don't have a firm to go to and be able to ask questions to. So finding a mentor, I think is really important whenever you first get out.
Outstanding. Thank you. I love that. NCRA, another great source of mentors. Your state associations, a good source of mentors. Obviously, the people on our call tonight, don't miss out on any of the avenues for available mentors. I'm going to move on to the next question with Ron Cook. How do you interrupt in a deposition? You're on mute.
I thought the space bar was supposed to take me on and off of mute. I don't do Zoom depositions. So anyway, you know, I'm very old fashioned when it comes to interrupting. A lot of people say, don't say I'm sorry before you interrupt, but that's just my style. Typically, I'll say, I'm sorry, would you mind repeating that, please? I'm not really sorry because it's me that needs to take the record, but that's just the way I've been from day one. Once in a while, I might say, excuse me, but it's our record. It's our job to interrupt if we have to interrupt. I try to keep it at a minimum, which is why I practice on Rich's practice page, because I want to get faster and faster and as fast as he is. And yeah, it's just something that I try to not interrupt. But if I need to, for whatever reason, I just say, I'm sorry, would you mind repeating that? One other thing that I say at the beginning of depositions, I haven't done depositions in quite a long time, but there were two things that would happen. in a deposition. One had to do with exhibits, and it may be where the witness would abscond with my exhibits when they didn't realize that I'm the one to retain the exhibits. And the other one is if you ask somebody to repeat something, they won't just repeat it, they'll try to explain. So I give two admonitions, and I would always ask the attorneys if it was okay to begin with, and they'd say, sure, go ahead, give whatever admonition you want. And so I would talk to the witness, and I would say, I just want you to know two things. Number one, if I ask you to repeat something, I'm not looking for explanation or clarification. I just want you to repeat what it is you said, because that's what I didn't hear. That's what I need to get. And then the second thing is, we will probably hand you exhibits. They'll be for you to refer to, but please don't walk off with them. They'll be for me in the end. So I just found that saved a lot of heartache doing that.
Outstanding. Early, how do you interrupt in a deposition? And I'm going to do an add-on question with you. Can a court reporter ask to go off the record?
Okay, number one, yes, a court reporter can ask to go off the record, and I have asked to go off the record for various reasons, and it's never been a problem. If there's an audio issue, if there is, like, if I'm doing a Zoom demo at home and the lawnmower is going on right next to me, I'll say, excuse me, can we go off the record? I have a problem with the gardener. I try to be more informal than really, really formal. There's enough tension going on in the deposition that it doesn't help if I take the tactic of being really formal and firm. There's a time and a place, and you have to read the room. And the same thing in trial, you have to read the room. More often than not, I will say the same thing as Ron does. Excuse me, I need you to repeat that. And the other thing that I will do is, if it is a situation where I know all the attorneys, they've worked together before, I'll say something like, wow, counsel, you ran away from me. It always draws a settling down, and let's just start, let's start again. So that's what I do.
Thank you for that answer. Reagan, I'm coming to you next, and I'm going to slightly adapt this question to the next kind of situation that you approach with going off the record. The question submitted from one of our participants: do both attorneys need to agree to go off the record?
Yes, both attorneys need to agree to go off the record. Absolutely. One attorney can cause you to go on the record, but both attorneys have to agree to go off the record. So that's something you need to write down on a piece of paper, something you're going to remember, because it's mandatory. And if you don't allow that to happen and just say, okay, we're off the record, opposing attorney may say, no, I didn't agree to go off the record. And you'll feel like you missed your place there, and you would have. So it takes two to go off the record, one to go on the record. And can I just say, I do an interruption a little bit differently. So if the witness is saying, what does it mean to be an independent contractor? And I didn't hear independent contractor, I will say, excuse me, what does it mean to be what? And so then they are prompted just to pretty much repeat those words. So that's how I handle that interruption.
I like that, because that's how I do it. Don't add extra stuff. Just pick up where I left off, if you don't mind. Okay, so we're going to talk next about how do you prepare for a deposition. And I'm saying deposition specifically because freelancers around the United States of America don't all do court. So while I understand that many of the freelancers on our panel also cover court, we're going to talk next about how do you prepare for a deposition. Do I have a panelist that would like to go first on this question? Early.
The first thing that I do is read the notice if it's available, and I read into the notice. So if I can tell a lot about what the caption says, who the parties in the caption are, and then I read that, and I will also because I take a lot of intellectual property cases and very technical cases. I will Google it online just to see what information I can get, enter as much as I can because I'm doing real time, 99.9% of the time. I enter all of the names, proper names, anything I can find, chemical names, trichloroethylene, perchloroethylene, that's something like that. And like for trichloroethylene, it'll be trick. And then every time it comes up, it's so easy, I'll never get it wrong. What else can I say? I make sure that I know where it is. I make sure that I know when it is and who's taking it. And I look for the proof of service for who I can expect to be involved in the deposition and who might want copies. And if they want real time, I use my own software. So I will find out who the emails of all the attorneys who will want the real time. And I send that to them in advance, introduce myself, and it just makes life a lot easier.
Outstanding. Rich Jamosin, how do you prepare for a deposition?
One of the first things I do is I try to get a prior transcript for every job I'm going to go on. Now, it's not always available. They may say this is the first time we're covering, but with this transcript, you can see who showed up at the last job. And I will page through the entire transcript and look for any words or names, and then I'll, skim through the word index. And that's for me, that's a big start. Like I said, you don't always get it. Like Early said, you get the notice. You can Google the, the ID number or just the case name. And I also prepare what we call a dog sheet. I don't know if everybody in the country calls it a dog sheet, but it's just your legal pad. I write down the agency name on top, the job number, the date, where it's at, and the firm names. I'll just put, whatever, Levinson Axelrod, attorneys for. I like to do that before I even get to the job, just so that when I get to the job, I'll say, okay, here's, the one side, and I'll put who they're representing, or you can figure out who they're representing from the prior transcript too. But for me, prior transcript is big. And when I don't have it, I sort of feel a little naked or whatever you want to call it. But you get by though. You can still prep other ways, hopefully. But sometimes you walk in and there's nothing. They may just say, here's the notice, and that's it. But yeah.
So furthering, Alex, I'm coming to you. Furthering our preparation for a deposition, there's also people want to know, what do you take with you on a deposition? Alex, do you have an answer for that?
I'll do the first part of that question. So, and I just want to preface this with both Early and Rich do real time. I don't do real time, so my answer is going to be very different. I get a lot of shit about this from my friends. I'll probably get flack from some of you guys on the panel. I don't do prep before a job. For those who don't know, the caption is basically the plaintiff and the defendant. It's who's suing who. Sometimes you get the attorneys who are involved, and sometimes you can get attorney representing the plaintiff or attorney representing the defendant. For me, there's just too many variables to know that you don't know when it comes to doing a case. I had a job last week where I had a caption. It had the attorney's names, the plaintiff names. I even had an exhibit. And then the whole deposition went on, and it had a dozen different doctors' names. There was no way I could have found all these different doctors' names. I see that instead of doing prep beforehand, this is all things you can do after the job. When the job is happening, I hear a doctor's name, I hear it over and over and over again. I can find a way to brief it in my head. Maybe auto-brief will come up with something, but I can find a little shortcut where it doesn't auto-translate into something. Maybe it'll just come up as the word car. And I know that the word car isn't going to come up anymore in the transcript, or I'm at least hoping for it. So that way, when I'm done doing the transcript, I'm going on doing my editing, it's called globing, where you search for the word car, and then you can change that to the doctor's name. And so in regards to what do I take with me on my job, it's pretty bare bones, and I have my laptop, all the cords I need, my steno machine. And then the one other thing that I have, or I guess the two other things, I have a notebook and I have a pen. And for my notebook, I write down the who's suing who at the top. I put the date underneath it, and I write down everybody who is present. So I put the questioning attorney, the other attorney. Sometimes there's multiple attorneys. I put the witness, and I'll also identify them as questioning attorney, witness, and all that. And then I'll also write how many estimated pages it was, the time we were on the record. In Florida, they don't always order, meaning that once the job is done, I don't necessarily have to transcribe it. So I'll make a note about that. And then in Florida, there's what's called read and sign, where after a witness is deposed, they have the right, if it's ordered, to read the transcript for accuracy and make sure, okay, everything that I said is true here. So if they want to read and sign it, I make that notation, and that way my agency knows to send that person the transcript to.
Thank you. Reagan, I'm coming to you next, and we're going to talk about what it means to be an independent contractor versus the other side of that would be an employee. And obviously this is going to be different for different states. Again, you're in California.
Right. So for me, what independent contractor meant was a lot of flexibility when I had young ones. And so I could be at school with them if I wanted to be, or I could work really hard one week if I wanted to and make up time maybe. It also means you have to be very disciplined because nobody's over your shoulder, you know, telling you what to do next. So you have to keep up with your deadlines. You have to keep track of, if you're working for multiple agencies, you need to keep track in some way of who you've billed, who your outstanding invoices are from, you know, or with, when you've been paid on those invoices. If you haven't been paid on those invoices, sometimes things slip through the crack. You need to follow up on that. Yes, you're your own boss. So it means you need to have your own health insurance if your spouse doesn't. I would recommend a health savings account, which requires that you have a high deductible medical insurance policy, something to look into. Your disability insurance and is something that you need to provide. Your retirement, you need to be very disciplined about saving money every year for your retirement. Your taxes, you need to be very disciplined. But guess what? You can be. And it's just getting into a routine, and the flexibility is excellent whenever you have kids that you need to work around. So those are the things I would say about being an independent contractor.
So Maya, I'll turn to you as a freelance firm owner in New York. Can you expound on any of the independent contractor implications?
Expound on? Where are you leading me?
I'm looking for like the definition. I'm hoping that everybody knows that independent contractor means you're not an employee. So the difference, like, you know, exactly what she was alluding to with doing your own taxes, doing your own insurance.
Right. So as an employee, probably everybody has been an employee while they've been putting themselves through school, and you ended up with a pay stub at the end of the week, 2 weeks, whatever it was, and you saw all those taxes being taken out. Well, that's not happening if you are an independent contractor. If you did a transcript and you send it in and you're going to get $500 for it, you're going to get a check for $500 gross. And at the end of the year, all those transcripts and all those checks that you got, you're going to get one. Let's pretend you are working wherever you are for one agency. I'll just make my diagram easier. So you're going to get a 1099 from that person. Let's say you made $20,000, just to make my math easy. But you have to pay taxes on that. So it's not being taken out every pay period. You have to do it yourself. And I could get into the whole shebang about that. And I'm happy to talk to you if you want to, but I won't be your accountant because I got my own accountant. I mean, I graduated in May. I took my first job 6 weeks later, and I got an accountant because you have expenses, you have a home office, you have your car, you have all your insurances, like Regan said, and all those things. I've never done my own taxes. I did before I became an before I became an independent contractor, because it's too complicated and I would rather pay a couple $100, then lose couple $100 because I didn't do a home office deduction, or I forgot about, you buy a new steno machine, you repair your steno machine, you buy, I don't know if anybody's buying paper anymore, but I used to print back in my day, I used to print a hard copy transcript, and I drove it down to the agency and I dropped it off, and they made the copies for it, bound it up, and sent it out. I don't think you guys have no idea what I'm talking about, but Ron does. He's laughing. And but that's what we did way back in the day, and that would be an expense. Even driving downtown to turn it in, that's an expense. So you don't have to do. I mean, I probably a little bit better than H&R Block, because they really need to understand what you're doing, and it's not, you're not just an artist at home working in the basement. This is a real. It's different. Our job is different. Our job is just so different from what everybody else does. But and the accountant is just going to tell you, this is how it's done. These are your taxes. I'm telling you, if you don't have a savings account, go open one right this minute. And every time you get that $500 check for that transcript, you will take a quarter minimum and put it into your savings account. And you will, because you will have your money to pay your taxes at the end of the year. If you're really good, you'll do a third. But at the minimum, you got to do a quarter. And if you end up with, that's your refund. You're never going to get a refund. If you figure it out with your accountant on how to pay it in at the right time, you're not going to get a refund. Your money is going to be sitting in your savings account every year. And hopefully you're going to pay in just enough to not have a penalty, and you're going to have the money in the savings account because you did what I told you to do.
Outstanding tips. I like that quite a bit. I followed that very advice that I was given and hired the accountant that worked for my boss. So he was a court reporter, and I had an accountant that knew what court reporters were, what we did, how we worked. Ron Cook. What are the pros and cons of being a freelance reporter?
Well, freedom. And, we had 6 kids, and I could go to events at any time on any day. If I didn't have a deposition, half of your work or more than is done at home doing the transcripts. So the freedom is just incomparable. I never was an employee. But I never wanted a 9 to 5 or an 8 to 5. When you're an official in court, there is a lot of work over and above the 9 to 5 job. You've got transcripts to work on in the evenings and maybe at night. I just always wanted to be my own boss, and I wanted to have the freedom that comes with it. The con to that is exactly what these guys are talking about, the whole taxes. I put away 30% now. It took me several years to be disciplined to do that. And many of those initial years, I was behind the 8 ball. I'd see my accountant when the time came, and he said, well, you owe $20,000. And it's like, I ain't got $20,000. Yeah, exactly. I just don't have it. And so I'd have to, I think there was one time I even took out a second mortgage on my house. I don't remember how I ended up paying for all this stuff, but it's not a comfortable position. So if you are a freelancer, make sure you follow Maya's advice and put away at least 25%, if not 30 or 35%, so that you're prepared when the time comes to pay the piper. But I just like the freedom.
And we're going to follow up more on pros and cons of being a freelance reporter. I forgot to also mention, your membership with NCRA can pay for itself if you really take advantage of all the things that they have to offer you. And one is insurance programs. You can shop costs and the best, course of action, but insurance for health, for disability, for equipment, NCRA is a resource for all those things. If you didn't know that, that's also on the NCRA website. Early Langley, what are the pros and cons of being a freelance court reporter?
Well, okay, having been both, I did start off as an official, and I I liked it. I liked the camaraderie. It felt secure. And the problem was I wanted to have children. And I took time off, and one of the contacts I had said, hey, while you're taking time off, can you please cover these depots that are coming up? And I think it was antitrust litigation in the AT&T divestiture. And I said, okay, I'll try it. And I liked it. I liked it a lot. I echo everything that everyone has said about being both. But I do think in the long run, me personally, I have made much more money and have much more freedom than if I had been an official all this time. But that's just me, and but that's just me.
Rich Jermosin, so I'm going to segue with this a little bit. It does go with pros and cons of being a reporter, but can freelance reporters retire?
I'm probably the wrong person to ask that question to. If I had my way, I would never retire. I say that at 51. I don't know what I'm going to be saying at 61 or 71. But I mean, I have a 401k. I have a significant amount put away for retirement. So you want to be prepared, just because even though I think I want to work forever, I don't know. I look at Donna Erlov, and she's been working 50 years. And she's taken some major stuff. She just she posts on the practice page that she was up all night finishing a daily or something, and she said something like that used to be the norm back in the day, but it's hitting her different now. I sort of look at her as my idol. Like, if she can make it, I can make it. So can they retire? I suppose we can all retire. It's just a matter of putting the money away, especially when times are good. And not waiting till you're 40 or 45 to start putting it away. My son just started working. He's 23 years old, and he started his 401k or whatever they're offering at his office. And I told him, good, because I certainly didn't start at 21 years old or 20 when I started working. It took me several years before I jumped on the bandwagon to get prepared for retirement. So can we retire? I suppose, yeah, sure, we can retire. Do I want to retire? Not right now. I think I want to work one day a week when I get in 20 years from now or something. So that's a roundabout way to maybe answer your question.
So it has to do, I believe, with being organized and being prepared. And that is a topic that we're going to take further in an Ask Me Anything session coming in 2024. So be on the lookout, for more information about all things core reporter related, how to stay organized. But Reagan, I'm going to turn to you next. We have a lot of questions about rate sheets and invoices. Do you have any tips for staying organized?
I haven't been the best. I will tell you that. I've gotten better in my older years about being organized with that. We didn't have rate sheets for years, decades. We didn't have rate sheets. We worked for an agency and they told us what we got paid, but then things kind of changed. When I had my agency and I had to develop my own rate sheet, that was good, exercise for me for when then I became a freelancer. But I would say with your rate sheet, when you establish it, it's going to be a work in progress as you can, come up on other things that happen. You may want to add to your rate sheet. I try not to make changes officially to my rate sheet, but every 2 years, like to give it to the agency every 2 years. I need to keep up with, what those are and not constantly be changing that. And so I make, when I send it to an agency, I make a note of when who I've sent it to, and because I might tweak it, it might be this way for an agency for these 2 years. And now that I'm going to tweak it a little bit, I need to be able to check that whenever I'm doing my billing, that I'm billing it accurately, and when I'm being paid, that it's being paid accurately. So, and I have just a very elementary Word document that I use for an invoice. I'm sure I could learn from these other experienced reporters of how they do invoices. I'm not a math girl, I'm a Word girl. So those are the things that I would say at this point about rate sheets and invoicing.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. So we're closing in on just 5 minutes left together with each other this evening. I did miss that we have Karen Tyler in attendance, and she is also a National Court Reporters Foundation trustee. Thank you, Karen, so much for your time tonight and being here with us. Hi, Karen. So I'm going to run down our list of panelists one by one this one last time, and I'm going to let you share whatever closing thoughts, tips, inspiration that you would like to share. Alex, you'll be first.
Closing thoughts, tips. I'd say, piggybacking off of what I'd said before, when you start working, pick one agency and stick with them. It helps you kind of control how much work you're taking in. And at the same time, you can vet the agencies that you're going with. I went with a very small agency at first, so that way I knew that I could have the attention that I needed. Since I was going to be a new reporter, I was going to have a lot of questions. And that way there wasn't just email communications back and forth. There was phone calls. There was somebody who I could always talk to, who I knew on the other end and who knew me. So that way there was never any fear of, is this a stupid question I'm asking? No question was a stupid question.
Thank you. Early, I'm going to call on you next for your closing thoughts. And also we have a question in the chat about if you have tips for what you do to keep your wrists and hands healthy.
And that's exactly what I thought I would answer. First of all, I think it's really important if you feel any wrist issues to be careful when you sleep, that you don't sleep like this. A lot of people fall asleep and they don't even know that they've got their wrist curled up like that. So you can wear wrist braces. Be very careful how you pick up things. And take the time to exercise. You know, I'm a runner. I have a long history of having an addiction to running. So anyway, we won't go into that. But whatever you do, just walk, get out and exercise, because the circulation then helps to, it helps healing. And what else can I say?
We're very short on minutes, so I'm going to keep going. Closing thoughts.
I'm going to piggyback on what Rich was talking about, and he was suggesting that you become an RMR. And for those of you that don't know, an RMR test caps out at a Q&A at 260. That is definitely the goal that you want to strive for. But I will say that even if you're just at your 225s, if you can get to 240, you'll have a much easier go of it than 225. If you can get to 250, you'll be better off than 240. And I'm not talking about just the short term. I'm talking about if you can write 250, granted 260 would be even better, but if you can't get there and you go to 250, your life is going to be that much easier forevermore. So I would suggest that you strive to continue to improve until you get to 250, 260.
Bailey Evans, what would you like to say?
I would say something that I think is important, since we as freelancers don't have the network of coworkers around us, is as a new reporter, even if it seems like it might be a little expensive or you might not really want to go, but going to conventions or going to state associations, I don't always look forward to it, but every time I get there, it's really investing in yourself, and it makes you create these connections that you never would have had the opportunity to meet. So I think that's really important.
Outstanding answer. Thank you. Maya.
I was doing a little chat. I guess we're talking about it's shoulders, it's neck, shoulders, elbows, and wrists. It's not just your wrist. It starts here and it works down. Sitting on the job, of course, we can't get up whenever we want to, but if you can get up, make sure, move around as best you can, relieve your stress. Some people like those, I don't know what they're called, cushions to balance your elbows off of. Not everybody can work with them, but if you can, that takes a lot of pressure off of your shoulders. When you're editing, get a good keyboard, get a wrist doohickey thing. Get a good mouse, get a good monitor. Don't be squinting. Your eyes are the gateways to whatever, you know what I mean? But invest, like Bailey said, you're investing in yourself still. You learn your software, technology. If you have to do 6 keystrokes to get something to happen, you're not doing it right. I guarantee you, every single person's software, I use Case Catalyst, can reduce those 6 keystrokes to 1 or 2. Every time you're pounding on your machine and you're stroking out that great big wonderful word that Early said that I'm not going to try and repeat, but on her intellectual property thing, she can reduce that down to 2 strokes. That takes pressure off of your neck, your shoulders, blah, 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 all the way down. It's very important. Very important. You're tough now. You're 20, you're 30, you're not so much 30 anymore. And it comes creeping in.
So we're over 9 just a little bit, but we have 2 panelists left for closing thoughts. Reagan.
I want to highly encourage you. It is worth everything it's going to take out of you to finish. Do not give up. I do not care how long it takes you. Finish school. It's going to be worth it. It's intellectually rewarding. It's financially rewarding. And make sure your workspace at home for producing your transcript, you have a good chair and good lighting, and don't go cheap on that kind of thing. Be good to you, because it's going to make an ergonomic difference.
I love that. Rich Jermosin.
Yeah, I'll finish with don't stop improving. Keep practicing. It's just 15 minutes a day. And it'll help you in the long run. Also, at depositions, when we go on break, don't sit there for half the break. The break is going to be 6 minutes. Get up. If you've been going for 90 minutes, it's not good. I do it myself. Oh, I need that spelling. Next thing you know, they're saying, okay, let's keep going. Now you're sitting there for 3 hours straight because you just did 2 90-minute sessions. So get up, go to the bathroom, get a cup of coffee, but move. You need to move because the breaks are short and not very frequent.
Thank you so very much for your time this evening, everyone. I hope you found it helpful. If we didn't get to a question you were looking for, do not hesitate to reach out. This chat will be up for another minute or 2. Scroll through it, write down whatever email interests you. Reach out so that we can answer more questions for you. We're here to help you. Also, you can join us next month, and we're going to talk about captioning. I'm the moderator. How fun. So you're going to love that. And that is on Tuesday, November 28th. It's from 8 to 9 Eastern. So, another 1-hour format. We will have a different panelist of people specializing in captioning. And the Ask Me Anything task force is hard at work. We have slated presentations for January, February, March, April 2024. Those will be advertised very shortly. So I'm stalling so that you can scroll through this chat box right now and write down your network connection that you would like to make. Thank you for being here. And it was wonderful chatting with all of you wonderful panelists. I really appreciate everyone's time. Good evening.